We're learning the first Sikha on Parshas Toldos in Chelek on page 100. The shir today is being learned l'nishmas Rabbi Yosef ben Yamin ben Rabbi Menashe Koltman. Oife Eile Toldos Yitzchak ben Avram hoiled is Yitzchak. The parsha begins, these are the children of Yitzchak, the son of Avram. And then the Torah repeats and says again, Avram gave birth to Yitzchak. Bringt Rashi was Chazal sagen, Rashi quotes what Chazal tell us. Hoyu leitzani adoreimrim, the cynics of the generation were saying, Ma'avimelech nesabra Sarah chulu, that Sarah became pregnant from Avimelech. It's not Avram's son. So Ma'as HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what did Hashem do? Tzar klaster panav sheYitzchak doimel Avram. Hashem shaped the image of Yitzchak's face to be similar to his father Avram. Ve'idu HaKoil, and everyone said testimony that Avram hoiled is Yitzchak, that Avram is the father that gave birth to Yitzchak. That's the repetition of Avram hoiled is Yitzchak, that this was a unique thing that Hashem clarified for everyone to see clearly that this is Avram's son. Davon verstehen, the question here is, wie bald as Chazal sagen the minyan b'derech shaylu tshuva. Since the way Chazal teaches this concept here, it's a question and an answer. Ma Oster Kadosh Baruch Hu. What does Hashem do to address this issue? Tzar chulu, and the answer, as explained what Chazal say Hashem did. Und ba'nugenen sich nit zu sagen bekitzer benichese, and the Chazal don't express this point just by simply saying that hoy litzani adoreimrim chulu, that there was what the cynics were saying, and therefore Tzar Kadosh Baruch Hu klaster panav. So Hashem makes the image of Yitzchak like Avram. On the verte, without adding these words, Ma Oster Kadosh Baruch Hu. What does Hashem do as a reaction, as a result? Is mashma, so from this it seems, as in the minyan, von Tzar klaster panav chulu, that in the fact that Hashem makes the image of Yitzchak like Avram, is da a spezielle oiftu. There's something very unique about this. Und the Far steht this b'loshen shaila, and therefore Chazal say that there's a question. How does Hashem address this? Ma Oster Kadosh Baruch Hu b'tmiyah. What could Hashem do to address the issue of what the cynics are saying? What is this unique accomplishment that Hashem does in order to get rid of what the cynics are saying? It's tamua, so this is very difficult to understand. What is so unique about the fact that Yitzchak looks similar to his father? This is natural, that its child has certain features similar to his father. Unless there's certain specific reasons of why a child should not have any features similar to his father. So if this is a natural thing, why are Chazal telling us that this is something unusual and unique? Ma Oster Kadosh Baruch Hu. Wir haben das verstehen, leuten wir in dem Loschen, was Chazal sagen, b'shayches zu kama und yonim. So we'll understand this by first explaining the expression that Chazal used regarding certain matters as is an kosher, that these matters are very difficult for Hashem. Kikriyas Yamsov, like splitting the sea. That even for Hashem is kosher, this is a difficult matter, kaviyachol, so to speak, that it's a difficult matter for Hashem. When do we define something as difficult? Of course, Hashem is a kol yachol, is almighty and can do whatever He wishes. But for some reason, certain things Chazal describe that they are in the category of kosher as difficult. In other words, it's something of a greater accomplishment in what Hashem is doing here. Is Yidua the Asbaran them? So the explanation for this expression of kosher is known as follows. As the kosher from Kriyas Yamsuf b'shteit, what is the difficulty of the splitting of the sea? What does it consist of? Be'ikeh, primarily. Nitten dem was the yam is nikra geworden. Doesn't consist of the fact that Hashem split the sea. On in dem was the noch is a given nitzav kameined, and also not in the fact that after this the water stood up as a wall. Or befrat lefi amavur in Tanya, especially according to what the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, as Kriyas Yamsuf is a kleiner repelle. Kriyas Yamsuf, the splitting of the sea, is less of a wonder than creating heaven and earth. So definitely, the term of kosher, that it's difficult for Hashem, is not in relation to the very splitting of the sea or the fact that the water stood up as a wall. No, rather, in them was by Kriyas Yamsuf zene gewen zwei hofchim beyachad. The term kosher is that when Hashem brings together two opposites at the same time, which is in this case, Rafuli Yisrael, the saving of Klal Yisrael, and V'nagav Mitzrayim, and the plague of the Egyptians here, wenn der Yam wird sich nicht gespalten, if the sea would not be split, wollten die Mitzrayim mit der reinen Yam. The Mitzrayim would not follow the Yidden and then drown in the Yam Suf. So you have here two opposites at the same time. B'shas as Midas Adin had geteined, when the attribute of judgment was arguing, Manishtano Elam El. There's no reason to make this distinction. Elo Ev David Zara, Ve'elo Ev David Zara. They are both on the same level that there shouldn't be a reason to distinguish and to save Yidden, and at the same time to punish the Mitzrayim. So when you have these two opposites at the same time, even though al pi seder, al pi din, there's no reason to have these two opposites, that is the term kasha, that Hashem is doing something very unusual. Mahai time is kasha. That's why we use this expression of kasha, difficult, the way Hashem does this. If you go according to the order of things, the way it is set up by Hashem Himself, there's a midas adin, and when you have the Yidden and the Mitzrayim, they both deserve to be there in the same judgment of this midas adin. So why is one receiving this judgment and one not? One is being judged just without midas adin, really, just kindly, with chesed. Two opposites at the same time. At the time of Kriyas Yamsuf, Hashem did not pay attention to Midas Adin, to the Yidden, and to the Mitzrayim the same. There were two opposites at the same time. That's the concept of kasha that it says by Kriyas Yamsuf, and this terminology, this idea of kasha is used regarding other things as well when Chazal compare to Kriyas Yamsuf. Al derech zeh vet men euch verstehen binyaneinu. With this, we could also understand in our case where the Medrash expresses this wonder of Ma Asa Kadosh Baruch Hu, what could Hashem do? Meaning it's something that's unusual and, so to speak, difficult for Hashem to do. It says Yedua, so with the following introduction here. It's known, the Chelek zwischen Avram and Yitzchak, the difference between the way Avram served Hashem and the way Yitzchak served Hashem. As Avram is given, Avram Oyavi. Avram is the one that the Pasuk describes as Avram, my beloved. He was a chariot to the attribute of kindness. His whole life was all about expressing chesed and love with people to Hashem. His whole avodah in this world was with kindness and with inviting guests. Yitzchak, by contrast, the avodah of Yitzchak is given pachad Yitzchak, as the expression of the pasuk is that Yitzchak is the one that expressed the tremendous awe and dread of Hashem. And mekavetz midas hagvura, a chariot to the attribute of gvura, the force, the power of Hashem. Was the father's avodah given chafiras beiris, and therefore his avodah in the world consisted of digging wells. What is the significance of digging wells? Arabnemen the erd und steiner was eine machasayif von mayan. It's removing the earth and the stones that cover over the water, the spring. And to reveal the living waters, the life that there is that's covered under many layers of coverings, that to reveal it from below. Kindness is revealing a light and a truth from above to below, whereas Gvura is dealing with the place where the opposition is, dealing with the place where there is many things, that there are issues and problems, and grappling with that and dealing with that and uncovering one layer, another layer, and bringing out the truth in that kind of a way. Really a complete opposite approach of Avram. Und the far, so therefore, is da achiluk oich b'negei zu yatsa mimeno. We can also see this distinction between Avram and Yitzchak regarding their children, and these are children which are yatsa mimeno. They are their children, but they went away. And they departed from the holiness of Avram and Yitzchak, the unikas chitzainim. This is the chitzainim, the powers of Klippa that take a certain nourishment, and these are children that went away. Was das ist mitzat kava chesed von Avram, und wie das ist mitzat kava chesed von Avram, und wie das ist von kava gvura von Yitzchak. So as we see this happens regarding Avram Avinu, which represents chesed, kindness, and how this happens regarding Yitzchak, which represents the opposite, gvura, harshness, and so on. Avram yatsa mimenu Yishmal. So from Avram goes out from him, departs from him. Yishmal. What is Yishmal? Chesed de Klippa. He represents the power of kindness in the negative sense in the domain of Klippa. On Yitzchak yatsa mimenu Esav. And from Yitzchak comes a child like Esav, and he left and he departed, which is al-chabach tichya. He lives with his sword, which is gvura de klippa, the might and the harshness of klippa. So now we understand who Yitzchak and Avram are in their spiritual being and in their spiritual Aveda, and here they really are opposites. So the Rebbe will get back to explain regarding the Ma'asa Kadosh Baruch Hu, but before this, the Rebbe explains now the first pasuk here that the Sikha began with, that we could now understand why the pasuk is saying here this point of Avram Holidays Yitzchak in the beginning of this week's parsha. Und das ist eine von den Biyurim. With this, we could have one of the explanations for was the pasuk darf sagen und darf gedah. Why the pasuk has to clarify specifically here in the beginning of this parsha, Avram Holidays Yitzchak, that Avram gave birth to Yitzchak. The L'chaire is not verstandig. At first glance, this is not understood. Aleph, the first question here is the hechrich zu sagen Avram Holidays Yitzchak. The reason why the pasuk has to clarify that Avram is the one that gave birth to Yitzchak is narval the pasuk the month frier Yitzchak ben Avram. It's only because it says who Yitzchak is, that Yitzchak is the son of Avram. And Rashi is mefarish, and as Rashi himself says that al yidei shekasav akasav Yitzchak ben Avram, because the pasuk tells us who Yitzchak is, that he's the son of Avram. So therefore, huskak loimar has no choice and has to continue and clarify that he actually is the son of Avram, and not like the cynics of the generation said. So if so, you could ask on this itself the following question. The Werte ben Avram, to say that Yitzchak is the son of Avram, it's not necessary for the Torah to tell us this here. We know this from the previous parshas that we learned, that Avram gave birth to Yitzchak, and this is his father. So if you don't mention that Yitzchak is the son of Avram, it wouldn't be necessary to further go ahead and clarify that in fact, yes, Avram did give birth to Yitzchak. Now, gleich erzählen, wegen Toldos Yitzchak, Vayehi Yitzchak ben Arbaim Shana Gomer, the pasuk could just begin with Ve'ela Toldos Yitzchak, and immediately go into the theme of this week's parasha, talking about the life of the children of Yitzchak. There is another question. Was is the Torah merames, the bavaronish, of Tainus Latzana Yadoir, erst in Parshas Toldos? Why is the Torah here hinting to clarify how wrong the cynics of the generation were, only here when we come to Parshas Toldos? Where the Torah primarily speaks about not Yitzchak himself, but his children, which are Yaakov and Esav, both Yaakov and Esav, and Toldos Me'urais Yitzchak. And here it talks about certain occurrences in the life of Yitzchak, but not really about Yitzchak himself and his birth. On Yitzchak ben Avram, Verto de Mont, Blois derech Hagav, and the fact that it says that Yitzchak is the son of Avram is only mentioned here in passing. Das hat gedarft stehen in der Friede Gesedre, wo es redt sich wegen Leides Yitzchak. If the Torah needs to hint and clarify that Yitzchak is in fact the son of Avram, this should have been clarified earlier, as soon as Yitzchak is born. Now the beer and them, so the explanation for this is from Loshen HaKosov, when the pasuk here says Ve'ele Toldos Yitzchak Gomer, there's a vav in the beginning of the pasha, and these are the children of Yitzchak. Mit a vav amoisif, adding to what the Torah said earlier is muchach. So from this it's clear as the pasha kompehemshach zufriya, that this pasha here comes that is as a continuation to what was spoken about earlier, was ratzach wegen Yishmael, where the Torah speaks about Yishmael. Und wie bald as euch Yishmael is ben Avram, and since Yishmael is also a son of Avram. Vadarab, on the contrary, Begiloi hat Yishmael mer shayches l'chayre to Avram vi Yitzchak to Avram. When you look at the relation between the character of who Yishmael is to Avram, it would seem that Yishmael is more related in his character to Avram than Yitzchak is. While Yishmael is bekava chesed, because Yishmael character is chesed, with kindness. As if Avram, like Avram himself. Nor at his chesed klippah. True, he's a completely different kind of chesed, a chesed that's totally detached of the chesed of Avram, because he's chesed in the domain of klippah. He originates from Avram, but then he takes Avram and goes to a place that's detached from the source. Areis separated completely away from of Avram. True, but nevertheless with the same nature of chesed. On Yitzchak is bekava gvura. On the other hand, Yitzchak, he is in the place of gvura with harshness and judgment. Heipich von kava chesed, the exact opposite of Avram's nature of kindness. So after we learn about Yishmael, comes now our parsha and tells us Ve'ele Toldos Yitzchak, that Yitzchak is the son of Avram. The Rebbe darf the Torah sagen. So therefore the Torah has to tell us here, Oich by Yitzchakin as is ben Avram, that by Yitzchak as well, the Torah is telling us he is the son of Avram. Und noch Meisav Zayin, the Torah even has to add more, Avram, Hoyled is Yitzchak. Avram is the one that gave birth to Yitzchak. As Adarabah. Here the Torah wants to tell you, no, that the opposite is true. The Yachas from Yitzchak to Avram is Gaba'ifim Miyuchad. It's not only that, of course, Yitzchak is also a son of Avram, like Yishmael is, but actually the relation between Yitzchak and Avram is unique. Nit nor is Yitzchak ben Avram, not only is Yitzchak a son of Avram, nor Avram hoyled as Yitzchak. Avram gives birth to Yitzchak. What that means is, in them is Bashtanen Ikir in Yonif on Avram. The whole Inyan, the whole existence of Avram in this world primarily exists in the fact that he's here to give birth to Yitzchak. Azevi steht in Pasuk, as the Pasuk tells us, Ki bi Yitzchak dafke yikar lo chazara. It's specifically Yitzchak that your seed, your descendant, is going to be expressed by the fact that you have a son of Yitzchak. That's where you continue the generations that come from you, not with Yishmael. That's why the Torah is saying Hoylid specifically here to contrast and to show that Yitzchak is different than Yishmael. And therefore, the Torah clarifies this only here when we come to the beginning of Parshas Toldos. When we learn on in this week's Parsha about Yitzchak, and not only about Yitzchak himself, but including also regarding the son of Yitzchak, which he has a son Esav, which is Gvura the Klippa Kanal. And Esav is in the category of Gvura, in Klippa true, but Gvura still. And another thing we learn about Yitzchak's Aveda and the events that happen in his life in this week's Parsha is Chafiras Be'era, is him digging the wells. Heipech von Avedas Avram, completely different and the opposite of Avram's Aveda. Is damals vet teikif hatayne von Litzani Adair. This intensifies the argument of the cynics in the generation as Yitzchak hat keshayches mit Avram. The Yitzchak is not related, there's no connection to Avram. So specifically here, in the beginning of this parasha that we'll discuss all of this, the Torah has to negate this idea of the Litzani Adair. Und das ist die Schwierigkeit, Lamaila Kaviyachol, in so cluster panav Yitzchak Daimel Avram. So now we can understand why the Medrash speaks about this as something which was such a great accomplishment. Ma'asa Kadosh Baruch Hu. This is, now we understand why this was Kaviyachol difficult. This is a great accomplishment that Hashem makes the facial features of Yitzchak to be similar to his father Avram. Now, das was a ben is Daimel Aviv, the fact that a child, even physically, is similar in his features to his father, is this mitzadem was der ben nemt sich von av. It's because the child comes from the father. Migufay umenishmasay, both from the body and the soul. The makeup of the soul of the father is where the child comes from. A child is similar and is a piece and comes from the father, both as far as the body is concerned and also in his character. However, Avram v'Yitzchak, when it comes to Avram and Yitzchak, as far as the character of their soul, they were the opposites of one another. Avram is given from Midas HaChesed, Avram is kindness, and Yitzchak from Midas HaGvura, and Yitzchak is from might, from harshness. So this is not only a difference in one detail, a midah, an emotion, but it's also a difference that includes also the way they understand things, their approach, their outlook. As it's known, another example where we find the two great Tanoim, or the yeshivas of Bishameh and Basilil, that represented as the Gvura and Chesed, as Mitzadem Chiluk, B'Shoirish Nishmaiseyem, because of the difference in the source of where the Neshama originated from. This also affects their thinking, their approach and understanding things. By Shammai, at Nete Geven L'Chumra, Beishameh leaned always more towards being more stringent about things, and Basilil is always more lenient about things. So we see how far the distinction of Chesed and Gvura goes. This is not just in the Midah, but it's in Seichel as well. Is Al Piteva, haben sie gedacht sein Choluk? So if so, naturally, Yitzchak and Avram should be completely different, und noch mehr Hofchi, even more so, opposites, und befrat beklaster Peneim. And especially this would be expressed in their facial features. While Mara upon him, the person's facial features is verbunden mit chunas hanefesh, expresses the character of the person. Abal chesed is besave upon him yafais, a person that's of a character of kindness always is with a smiling face. A Bal Gvura, a person that's more harsh and judgmental, with a Shrengim Panim, is more stern and more serious, v'chulu, and so on. So if so, the fact that Yitzchak and Avram were different in their avodah, in their character, chesed and gvura, this would naturally be expressed, that is, in their facial features of Avram and Yitzchak. So therefore, Chazal here are wondering and are saying, Ma asa Kadosh Baruch Hu. What does Hashem do here? Was faran eitze is faran zu bavaran in Itaine from Latzani Adar. What advice is there? What can we do to clarify, to show that the argument of the cynics is not true? Vibalt as mitzad hateva v'haseder, because according to nature and the way things are set up, darf Avram v'Yitzchak zayin hafchim b'klasta p'neim v'chulu. Avram and Yitzchak should be very different, even expressed in their facial features. Azevi ba'anagasam zen ezeh b'chesed b'gvura kavim hafchim. Just like it is in their behavior, that one is chesed and the other is gvura, which are opposites. However, since the cynics did argue and say that Avimelech Nisabra Sarah, that she became pregnant from Avimelech, and this is not Avram's son, is Asa HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So this is a higher source of a higher power, from a place where it's kosher, it comes from a higher place where Hashem does something, a dvar chiddush, a novel thing. Heipech hateva v'aseder, the opposite of the way things are in nature and the way it's set up. Alein, Hashem himself comes and Tsar cluster Panav Shal Yitzchak Daimel Avram. That Yitzchak, even though being the opposite of Avram, but nevertheless, he has an image, he has a facial features that are similar to Avram. That is the big accomplishment that the Medrash is expressing, that Chazal are expressing when it says, Ma Asa HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem himself. Okay, so now that we understand what this great accomplishment is, so in Sifei, the Rabbi continues and explains what exactly happened when Hashem does this, when the image of Yitzchak is now similar to Avram. Is this just something totally external? No, it's something much more than this. Es ist verstandig, but now it's understood, euch bepashtos, and it's simply understood, as das was HaKadosh Baruch Hu tzar klast upon Yitzchak daimel Avram. The fact that Hashem sees to it that the image of Yitzchak should be the same as Avram, or similar to Avram, is given. What this was here is nid blois as gashmi is the geoizen zol zayin bedoime. It's not just about the physical facial features should be similar, nor adarab. On the contrary, that's just the external expression of what's really going on here. Das was a zene given doime in ze gashmi is the getzir. Fact that Hashem did this, that physically they looked similar, is valze klast upon him beruchnius is given bedoime. That is because Hashem revealed something deeper about their inner nature, that they are similar. That even though Chesed and Gvura are really opposites, but nevertheless there's something deeper here that Hashem revealed about Yitzchak being similar to Avram, and therefore it was expressed by the fact that in their cluster panim, in their facial features, they are similar. So what is this similarity that there could be when you go deeper into Chesed and Gvura between Avram and Yitzchak? And this is understood based on what it explains in many places. Even though, yes, Chesed and Gvura are opposites of one another. However, in the case of the Gvuras of Yitzchak, it's a hemshech on a teitzah for Chasadim d'Avram. This is actually continuing, and it's a result of the kindness of Avram. The pasuk zakta, this is what the pasuk is really expressing when it says Avram hoyled is Yitzchak. Avram, in other words, Chesed gives birth. This is the offspring. Yitzchak is a result of the Chesed of Avram. So why is this? There has to be a deeper element to Chesed and Gvura where we can say that Yitzchak Gvura becomes an offspring of Chesed. So the Rebbe explains this on two levels. So the point there is not only Val the Sibba from Gvura is Chesed, because sometimes you have a Gvura and you look deeper into what this Gvura is all about. Externally it seems to be harshness, judgment, and so on. But if you look deeper into it, you see that the real root cause of this Gvura is really caused by Chesed. And that is Chesed vildoch as the Ashpaz on the Skalbel werden. Chesed desires and wants that abundance to give, and that what it gives should be accepted. And when you give with an abundance, without measuring at all, so then if it's too much, it can't be received by the recipient. It's all too overwhelming. So in order to have the recipient receive all of this good that chesed is looking to give, so you have to employ gvura so that it should minimize the intensity of what is being given by chesed so it can be received by the recipient. So gvura is actually serving the purpose of chesed. So in that sense, gvura could be just a detail for chesed. That's one point, but it's much more than this. Nor nachmer. It's much more. If you go into the depth, into the root of what gvura is, so then we'll see as follows. The gvura is the Yitzchak Zenen aninyan von chesed begilui. Gvura is the Yitzchak is actually revealed expression of chesed. Not just a detail that chesed employs. In other words, gvura is the opposite of chesed. It's withholding, but it's withholding for the purpose of chesed, to serve what chesed wants. No. Gvura itself, in this case, when you go to the root of gvura, so then over there, it's actually a concept of chesed in a revealed sense. Durch die Gvura is dafke tutzechayiv ariboy v'toisvis ba'ashpa. Gvura is intensity. Gvura is strength and might. When you get to the source of Gvura, so what you see over here is a tremendous intensity which is extremely abundant and extremely powerful. Ki yidua b'pirish, Gvura is geshamen. This is the meaning of when we talk about rain, that we refer to rain as the powerful rain that comes from Hashem. And this is the source of what Gvura is. Once Gvura comes out from what its source, so then Gvura is expressed by harshness, because the only way Gvura could come down into the world is when you measure it, when you limit it, because in its source it's so overwhelmingly powerful. But when you go back to the source of what Gvura is, the source of Gvura is might, force, an extremely forceful revelation of a hashpah. Was the first day, so therefore the pasuk says, "B'negei Yitzchak," specifically regarding Yitzchak, "Va'arbe ezarei ve'etnlei Yitzchak." I will increase, I will add, I will multiply his descendants, and I will give you Yitzchak. So Hashem talks about Yitzchak in this sense of va'arbe, that he's extremely powerful, and that's powerful in a sense of chesed. That is Gvura in its source, and over there in its source, Gvura could be a result of chesed. Or not the Eskalus from Chesed Avram and Gvura de Yitzchak. So now this inclusion, the fact that you can reveal how Gvura could be a result of Chesed, Nemtzich Mitzad L'mayla Miseder Ishtalshalos. This is when you go to the source of things, when you go to a place where it's higher than the way it's set up in the system of Seder Ishtalshalos, where Chesed and Gvura each are in their place respectively, and there they function as opposites. But when you go back to the source of things, and even higher than Ishtalshalos, there you see how Gvura is an act of Chesed, and it could be one with Chesed. Mitzadem ken zayin chibu von Havchim. Over here you can combine the two opposites of Chesed and Gvura. And that's really what happened when Hashem is making the image of Yitzchak to be like Avram. It's really an internal change. It's revealing an internal, deeper source of Gvura that becomes a result, and it goes together with Chesed. Damit wird neuch verstehen dem Remez and Lashon Chazal. With this we could understand another thing that's hinted in the language that Chazal say here about this. Ve'eidu akol Avram hoildes Yitzchak. Everybody testified that Avram gave birth to Yitzchak. What is this expression of testified? Nit ve'yadu uchadoime. Not that now it was known to all. Nor ve'eidu. Everyone testified. On Rashi Chazat Ibedem Lashon Tzveitamol, Rashi repeats this expression a second time. Eidus yesh. We have testimony. Shavram hoildes Yitzchak. That Avram gave birth to Yitzchak. What's the adgashada in the minyan von Eidus? What's the emphasis here on this idea that this is a testimony? And then, so based on what we explained before, we can explain this as follows. Eidus is shaykh dafke oivadover anelam. When is there a necessity for testimony? When there's something that's completely unknown. Oivadover agoli, something that everybody sees. And even something that's not known right now, but it's something that will eventually surface. It's not necessary to have any testimony for this. Das heißt, so what does this mean? Durch Eidus vet nimshach v'nizgala. What witnesses come and accomplish is they draw, and they reveal something. Was mitzad atzmai is a lemaila migeda gili, something which cannot be revealed, and it's not even at all possible. It's not even in the realm of being revealed at all. It's not even in the future. There's no possibility for it to be revealed. Now, beruchni is, what does this mean spiritually? Is this the amshacha from lemaila me'ishtalshalos? This is drawing down, revealing the source of things, but from a source, from such a place, from such a level which is totally beyond revelation totally beyond the regular system of creation. That is the concept of Eidos. Und das ist benitten die dann, dem Rem is an Eidos. So that is the hint of Rashi using this term of Eidos, that now we have a testimony, das was Avram, Heile des Yitzchak. The fact that the pasuk here is saying that Avram gives birth to Yitzchak, which means Hiskalalos Chesed and Gvura, that we have here an inclusion of two opposites, Chesed and Gvura. Is this mitzadam shachas b'chine shalamayla mishtalshlos? This is by revealing the source of things, the way it is, above the system of creation. Leiteva v'seichel, according to nature. And if things are grasped and are seen the way they are logically, kenes nitzan, impossible that you should have chesed and gvura coexist and even work together. As sat kein arten, there's no room for such a thing. It says, Eidos yeshkan. However, what Rashi is telling us is, we have testimony here. Bedugme vi Eidos was an made azay alena when is gesehen. Just like when you have Adam, what are witnesses literally? Witnesses with veer at the source, at the event. They saw what actually happened. They're not far from the source. They were there, and they share and they bring us that information directly from the source. And Muslims say gleiben, so you must believe them. So here as well, when you draw and you bring the source itself, so then the truth itself is revealed, then there, Chesed and Gvura are not opposites anymore. Chesed and Gvura are just an expression of the source where they can coexist. And that's what Eidos accomplishes. That's the Eidos l'chol boi olam, or Eidos yesh, that is, that Avram Hoel des Yitzchak. This is the conclusion of the explanation of what Chazal tell us here about Yitzchak's image being similar to Avram, the unique chiddush that there is in this, and what this really means on a deeper level as far as the Avodah and who of Yitzchak and Avram were on a spiritual level. From here, the Rebbe goes forward and brings out a few lessons, a few very powerful lessons that we can take from this subject. The Hirada from Bavidasenu is, so the lesson for us in our serving Hashem is as follows. It says, Yedu Adatam was Avram, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov, weren angerufen office. It's known the reason why we specifically refer to Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and not any of our other ancestors as the Ovis, as our forefathers. Weren angerufen office, they are the ones that are the Ovis, weil sie sind in der Sheirische Makke von Kol Achas Menishmas Yisrael, because they are the root and source for every single neshama of Yidden. On the beginning von Yeder and von the Ovis, and the levels of who they were, of these three Ovis, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, is an inheritance to every single Yid in every generation. Is by Yede Yidin, darf sein die Avedis von alle drei Avos. Every single Jew has to incorporate in his Avedis Hashem the Aveda of these three Avos. Now the fun is move on, so from this we can understand. As euch der Zar cluster panav chalo. This concept here as well that we just explained, that Avram represents Chesed, Yitzchak represents Gevura, but there's an inclusion of Chesed and Gvura. When you go to the root of Chesed and Gvura, Hashem reveals something deeper. And therefore Yitzchak is similar to Avram. His scholars from Chesed and Gvura, the inclusion of Chesed and Gvura, can und darf sein bei jeder Yid. This is possible and must be incorporated in the Avodah of every single Yid, being the descendants of the Avos that take and have the power of everything that the Avos had in them. Where is this expressed? The Ledugma, one example for this is, wie steht in Tanya, the Alter Rebbe describes a Yid's Avodah in this world, that a person could have a crying and bitterness in one part of his heart, looking at where he is in his Avodah Hashem and what's happening with himself. And but at the same time, the joy that he has in his heart for the neshama that he has, the opportunity to do a mitzvah that he has, and they can both coexist in the heart of one Yid. Having these two opposites at the same time is only possible when you connect it to such a truth which is beyond the limitations of the system of creation. As explained before, once things are systemized and everything is in its place, so over here, chesed and gvura, kindness and the harshness of gvura are opposites. As the Sefri tells us, as Ave v'Yirat zusammen, that to have love and awe at the same time can only be in the attribute of Hashem, not in Avedis Hashem, which means only when it comes to serving Hashem we are commanded to love and have awe at the same time, but not regarding worldly matters. A person can't love and hate, or have an attraction, and at the same time feel a rejection to the same thing at the same time. Now, here the Rebbe clarifies in what way this can happen or this can be applied in the person's life. The example that the Rebbe talks about in Tanya, the bitterness and the crying on one hand, and the joy and the celebration on the other hand. In this, that is crying, and then the joy in the person's heart, there are two levels of how this could be expressed. Aleph, one is, it's not exactly at the same time. The miriris soll sein Donnerstag banacht as a preparation for Shabbos, coming to the holiest day of the week. So the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya that on a Thursday night, so over there a person is thinking about his week and about himself, and there could be an expression of bitterness, looking at where he stands. On the simcha, and then the joy of who he is, the neshama that he has, Shabbos, that's expressed on Shabbos itself. So it's not a mamish at the same time. But Beis, then there's an even higher level, and something more difficult, Hakasha Yosef, which is very difficult. The Miredos mit Simche sollen sein zusammen bevasachas. To have a feeling of bitterness and a feeling of joy and celebration all at one at the same time. Und wie bald as jeder Yid is a Yerish from the Yavis, since every single Yid is an inheritor from our ancestors, was a Yerish nemt achalz. A Yerish, when you inherit everything. The Mela, so the conclusion from this is, Ken yedet eine, every single Yid, al kopanim lefamim, at least sometimes, einstellen sein Seder, euchen dem Eifen. It's possible for a person to have these two opposite feelings and have them at the same time. He should be so connected to the truth of Hashem that is not bound by these opposites. And therefore, in the Avodah of a Yid, he's able to experience and have these two opposites even at the very same time. That's one lesson in our Avodah. Another lesson that we could take over here is as follows. In order that everyone should see and say testimony that Avram gave birth to Yitzchak, what Hashem could have done is that before Yitzchak is born, Avram's facial features should be similar to Yitzchak. So Yitzchak was different because he represented Gvura, but Hashem could preempt that and have Avram be similar to Yitzchak. Well, the Rebbe says immediately, though, this is about beteva or beseichel shverer. Yes, as far as nature is concerned, and logically, this would even be more difficult, vias is given bepoil, than the way it actually was. Tsar klastaponov shel Yitzchak daimel Avram, that Yitzchak, which is the son of Avram, that his facial features should be similar to Avram. It would be more difficult to have Avram change to be like Yitzchak. But nevertheless, that was a possibility, and Hashem did not do that. Hashem did not make Avram to be similar to Yitzchak, rather Yitzchak is changed to be similar to Avram. So from this we take a very important lesson for everyone. B'shas men hat vor sich an Avodah, was kann getan werden. In einem von die zwei Kaven, if a person has in front of him something that has to be worked on, and it can be done in one of two ways. It can be done in kava chesed, it can be done with kindness, or the kava gvura, or it can be done with judgment, it can be with being judgmental and more harsh. And there's a doubt, which one will be more successful, which one should you choose? You choose the way of chesed, the way with love and with kindness, that will be more successful. As we see here, Hashem chooses to bring Yitzchak closer to Avram, that he should be similar to Avram, which represents kindness. This is similar to what the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, in a similar case, talking about Avos Yisrael, as b'shas mis mekarev yidin, when one draws another yid close to him, is levad zeis. Besides the fact was lehifsit schar mitzvahs avos rein, you never lose out by doing so because you're fulfilling a mitzvah of loving your fellow Jew. Is v'kula hai v'ulai yuchal akarvan l'teira avedas Hashem. You never know, this may actually be the way which is successful to bring them closer and to elevate them to your level to avedas Hashem. So instead of employing the opposite, which is when you see someone that's misbehaving, so going ahead and rebuking him and trying to be harsh and judgmental with him, the Alter Rebbe says, no, the approach is to be kind and bring them close with love, and that will bring them into Torah and Aveda. Here, the Rebbe goes on to yet a third point, another very powerful lesson and idea that we can take out of this inyan of Elo Toldos Yitzchak ben Avram. Inyan now, this point over here, as tzalib di taina von litzani adar, that only because of the opinion of what the cynics were saying, hat man mevatel gewen teva v'sidrei ishtalshalos. So Hashem nullifies nature and the way things are set up in the world that Hashem created. Hashem makes the features of Yitzchak to be similar to Avram. This could also be connected with with spreading the well springs of the inner dimension of Torah, the well springs of Chassidus outward. Which primarily began at the release of the Alter Rebbe from his imprisonment on the day of Yutes Kislev, which is connected to Parshas Toldos. As Parshas Toldos faltais allemal b'chodesh Kislev. Parshas Toldos is always in this month of Kislev. Other b'Shabbos mevarchem b'chodesh Kislev. Sometimes it's in the Shabbos that we bench the following month of Kislev. The Chodesh HaGeula, and this is an entire month of celebration of redemption. In Velches hat sich aufgetan der Inyan von Yefutze meine Zechachutza, the month in which it was accomplished the spreading of the well springs of Chassidus outward. Es steht in Zohar, the Zohar says, as in Torah zene faran gufi Torah, that Torah consists of two parts. There's the body of Torah, that's the Galia de Torah, the revealed part of Torah, and the Shmasa de Torah, the soul of Torah, Rozen Deiraisa, the secrets of Torah. Those are the two sections of Torah. Now, al pi seder ishtalshalos, according to the way things are set up within Torah, zene the nishmasa deiraisa and gufi Torah, the soul of the Torah, and the body of Torah, l'chayre tzvei bazundere inyanim. There are two separate sections of Torah, and jeder von sie hat sich sein Eifen, and each one of them has its way, the way it's revealed and expressed. Gufi deiraisa is begilu. The body of Torah is revealed and open. We learn about the subjects in the body of Torah, the halachas that pertain to things that we live with in our world. However, the soul of Torah that discusses higher spiritual matters, behelen, that's concealed. As understood also from the name regarding this section of Torah, and it's secrets. These are secrets. When you reveal a secret, then it's not a secret anymore. That is the way Torah is divided. It comes the redemption of the Alter Rebbe on Yutes Kislev on his machris and proclaims a completely new accomplishment. We can take the well springs and the secrets of Torah and bring it outward and reveal it in the same way as the revealed aspect of Torah is. As the Nayanis from Pnimiyas Torah, that the well springs of the inner dimension of Torah zal nimshach on his galaver, and it should be drawn down and revealed in an eifem from Nafatza, and it should be disseminated on Eichen Chutza, in the lowest and the most external and outward places. So now, how does this happen? Neisef of them was Chassidus Chabad hat abgetragen Pnimiyas Torah in Avona v'Asaga. In addition to the fact that Chassidus Chabad specifically, what it did accomplish, it took the subjects of the inner dimension of Torah and it brought it down in a person's comprehension. Chochma Bina Das. Chabad is the acronym of Chochma Bina Das, meaning that you take the deepest secrets of Torah and fully understand it. Before the Alter Rebbe opened this new pathway up and made this possible, when I fill it by the Alter Rebbe Gufe, and even by the Alter Rebbe himself, Far Peterburg, before he was imprisoned in Petersburg, is not given if as they feel the Slapshus Basage. So the subjects of the inner dimension of Torah were not brought down, were not available in this level of understanding. Now this goes even further. As Chassidus Chabad month, Chassidus Chabad demands, wie Kvaktushis Merevacham Yadmur schreibt, as the Friediger Rebbe, the previous Rebbe, writes in a letter, men soll lernen, this is actually in Kuntris Teres Chassidus, or Limud Chassidus, as it points to here in the footnote, men soll lernen Chassidus Ba'asage, one should study the subjects of Chassidus and fully comprehend it, in demselben Eifen, wie man lernt Asugye in Nigla. The same way you approach in learning a complex subject in Nigla, and you can discuss and understand and ask questions and so on. The same kind of approach when you come to discuss these deep esoteric subjects of the inner dimension of Torah. The chutza from the mloimid atzmai. This is the extent of how far we have to bring down, and the Alter Rebbe brought down and opened up the possibility to bring down the learning of the deeper dimension of Torah to understand it to the fullest degree, just like when you learn a subject in the revealed aspect of Torah. Is nice of Lizeh. In addition to this, Montman, what's demanded is that you should disseminate the well springs of Chassidus outwardly, kipshuta, in a literal sense, to somebody else that's in a place in his life that's completely unassociated with the real essence and the deeper dimension of Torah, and to bring it to him as well. And even more so, we're saying here that we're bringing this to a person on the outside, and there's no limitations given to this. The says what this means is as afille in chutza hayoyse tachten daf mefet zayn de mayanas. The lowest level of chutza, a person that seems to be so far, so unassociated with his Yiddishkeit or with anything connected to the depth of Torah, to him you have to go and teach these deep secrets of Torah. That's the big accomplishment that the Alter Rebbe began with founding Chassidus Chabad, which came about primarily at the breakthrough and of his release on Yutes Kislev. So on this one could ask, so seemingly this is something which is very difficult to understand, similar to the way this whole sikha began, talking about the kasha, something with, or tmiya, ma'asa, how could such a thing could be done? Even when it comes to teaching the revealed aspect of Torah to certain people, there seems to be limitations to this. As the pasuk says, the pasuk says that one that's a rasha, a wicked man, why are you learning my laws, my Torah? If you have such limitations in the revealed aspect of Torah, how is it possible to say that you have to take the wellsprings, the depth and the secrets of Torah and reveal it so it's no secret anymore, and to bring it to the outside, to the people that are on the lowest level? So for this we have the lesson over here from what Hashem did when he made the image of Yitzchak be like Avram. As b'shas as rirton in etzem von Yidden, when this is something which is touching, and this is something which is necessary for the very essence, the identity of a Yid. Was that is mushish and atzmus, the very identity of who a Yid is, he's rooted in the very essence of Hashem himself. So over here, any calculations that there may be in any level where things are already formulated to a certain extent, in Torah even, where there's a certain formulation of what belongs where, what belongs to be a secret. But by the Eibishter himself, there are none of those definitions and limitations. Und der Eibishter is mahapech v'tzar klastapanev sheyitzchak as lo zayin daimel Avram. So like we learned before here, that Hashem goes and transforms and takes Yitzchak and makes him to be similar to Avram. So that could be applied over here regarding the concept we're talking about as well regarding Torah. As oich pnimiyus ha-Torah. So therefore, even the inner dimension of Torah, was mitzat sidrei al-ishtalshalos, looking at the way things are formulated, is behelem. So pnimiyus ha-Torah, something that belongs to be concealed, which is similar to what gvura, Yitzchak gvura is something which is concealed and withholds. Zalkum begali should come out and be revealed. Hashem is taking this gvura, this secret of Pnimiyus HaTorah, and is changing the nature of it and is revealing it, which is Chesed, Avram. So the gvura is becoming similar to Avram. Pnimiyus HaTorah is being revealed like the nature of Chesed is. And the reason for this is because it's the very identity of Yidden, of Klal Yisrael, and of every individual Yid that's at stake over here. And what is this all about? So the Alter Rebbe says, as of them is mechuvin the mashal. For this is the analogy of an Abem Melech from a prince was sehr krank geworden, that became very ill. Bis is not given kein Eitze. There was nothing that the doctors could do. Not to zerreiben an Even Teva was his kvua and Keser Melech. And the only thing that they thought may help is to take a precious gem that's there in the crown of the king and to take it and rub it and turn it into a medicine, and then the child, the prince, if he takes this, he may get healed. Was in dem Even Teva, this precious gem, is tali the ganze Schenkeit von Nezer Atara Machtira. The crown of the king, the whole beauty of this crown depends on this precious gem. Geben das trinken dem Ben HaMelech. Give this after you crush it to drink to the prince. Hat der Melech gesagt, so when the king was asked about this, what did he say? Should they remove this precious gem or not? Is wie groß is der Yeike von Keser Malchus? However great and important the preciousness of the crown of the king is this aber ka'ayim ve'efes legabe dem Leben von sein Sohn. It's totally worthless when it comes to the life of his son, of the prince. Now the Rebbe clarifies further what is expressed by this mashal here. Al pidin tam sich mit mishtamish sein afile bekeser hamelech. If you want to take things, if you want to look at the way it is, al pisei the shtalshus of Torah, the halacha, so you're not allowed to even use in any way the crown of the king. Und da is man in ganzen Ma'abed Ikra Keser. And here you're crushing and destroying the main beauty, the gem of the crown. Tzalib dem Ben HaMelech, and for who is this? Not for the king himself, but it's for the prince, for the son of the king. Afal Pi is Ben HaMelech, is doch nit Melech. Yes, he's the son, but he's not the king himself, and therefore Al Pidin, you can argue that this may not be done. But however, when this is something which his life, the child's life, is in danger, and that's rooted in the very essence of the king, beyond this crown, which expresses his glory and so on. But it's the very essence of the life of the king, which is who his child is. All cheshbainis, all calculations, including a halacha al pitayre. But if it's a yid's life that's in danger, pekuach nefesh, it's doicha everything. There's no calculations. So therefore, that's the source of the essence of Yidden. When we see that the Yidden's life is in danger, their Yiddishkeit, their very identity. So over here, the Alter Rebbe opened up the possibility and drew down from the root and the source of Torah and said that we could not take Pnimius Torah and reveal it and give it to every single Yid, even in the Chutzah. Und der Alter Rebbe is noch meise von dem a gewaltige Inyan. The Alter Rebbe adds over here an unbelievable thing in additional to what was said before. Even when the condition of the prince has deteriorated to the degree, there's doubt whether he's even going to be able to open his mouth and take even one drop of this potion here that was crushed from the jewel, the gem of the king's crown, into his mouth. So you may say the whole thing is a doubt. But we're definitely going to be destroying the crown of the king. Von deswegen, but nevertheless, is kedai. It's worthy. In zerreibt even teuve, you go and you crush that gem from the king's crown. Was ruba ibud, even if most of it will be wasted. Tome vet ein troppen areingelen teuch Fishel ben HaMelech. Because maybe even just one drop is going to enter in him and penetrate him and heal him. And that's what we have to learn, how we understand how deep the connection of a Yid to Hashem is, that the Eibusha is ready and to open up the deepest circuits of Torah, which al pi cheshbon, it remains to be in its place. But if it's the Yid, which is rooted in the very essence of Hashem, that's at stake here, so even if it's just a doubt whether you could save his life, the Eibusha says you have to open up, and this is the power that the Alter Rebbe brought down, to open up, to disseminate the secrets of Torah, to save every single Yid. And by us getting involved in disseminating the well springs of the inner dimension of Torah outward to every single Yid, this brings is the promise of Mashiach himself, as he told the Baal Shem Tov, the arrival of the master of Mashiach, Dom Malka Mashiach, this is the King Mashiach, b'meheira v'yameinu mamish, speedily in our time.